world's most expensive SCX24. What's going on, everyone? I have decided that I need to be back in an SCX24 because there's competitions to be had. A few actually, comp series have either been going and I didn't really know, or have been picking up steam, and I love competition. SCX24s in the past have not been my cup of tea, but I've never competed with them. And I think that could change everything. So I decided, you know what? If I'm going to do this again, let's absolutely do it as best I can. So that means buy everything and then figure out what I'm going to use and design the rest. So this entire pile of parts is intended to be for one truck. I need a box to put all this crap in. But obviously this all can't get used. There was just things that I felt like I should have, I should test, check one thing versus another and really try and decide. The thing is that the comp is happening in, 4 days from today. You're gonna see this all in one video, but I learned about the comp last Wednesday. Today is Tuesday, and the comp is Saturday, and then there's another one on Sunday. So I'm gonna try and hit 2 comps in 2 different places with a truck that doesn't exist. And I'm not just gonna bolt parts together to accomplish this. I plan to design my own chassis and a handful of other parts that I feel like maybe could give me an advantage. So let's get this organized, and I'll run you through my big picture plans before we dive right into a build montage. So we'll start off at the bottom. I wanted to run the Little Guy Racing Parts Super 8 axles. Now these are 8 millimeters wider per side, but I'm gonna keep that width in check in a way that we'll get into, because the competitions that I'm going to, I looked through the rules, talked to them about it, just to see what their minimum gate distance was gonna be. And it was gonna be pretty tight. So having a super wide SCX24 didn't seem like a fantastic idea. Along with the Little Guy Racing Parts Super 8 axles, I got a bunch of accessories from them. Some upgrade parts, some accessories. We got some extra of their CVD axle shafts. We got an underdrive gear set for the rear axle. We got some brass steering linkage for a little bit of extra weight. I got their brass knuckles, and I got their brass third members for those axles. Now, also, I got 2 sets of everything because we are doing a 4-wheel steer build. Both of the competitions that I plan to go to have a class where that will be allowed, and that seems like the most fun for me. I picked up 2 different motors from Furatech. One is the Micro Komodo. This is an outrunner, but it's a small diameter style motor. So I got that as one option, and then I also picked up Furatech's complete transmission that has the this is the Mini Stellar transmission, and it has the Mini Komodo bolted to it. If I decide that little Komodo will do, instead of running the Furatech with that outrunner motor that's on there, after talking about building a 1/24 scale on one of the live streams, Tom Beck sent me this little guy, and this is from Hard Park. And it takes and it rotates that motor way down low, and just is a nice compact aluminum and carbon fiber transmission that also comes with a skid plate that's meant to have some skid angle to it. So the little Komodo will pair nicely with this, from what I'm told. To push those motors, I got the Python Pro ESC from Furatech. Servo wise, talked to Reefs RC, and I've got 3 different servos here. Now, Reefs just announced this 99 micro in brass. So that would make sense on a front axle, a little bit of extra weight. Granted, it'll be up on top of the axle, which can have its drawbacks, but some extra weight on that front axle is one thing. We've got a standard 99 micro, which is significantly lighter weight. Just these cases are significantly different in weight. Now, I did need a bunch of supplementary parts to go with it because I'm not starting with a car in the first place. I'm just building one from nothing. So I went on to A-Main and I picked up a bunch of stuff. I picked up 2 sets of drive shafts in case I need to, mix and match the longer lengths. I grabbed a couple of sets of wheels just in case, but I don't plan to run these actually. So we'll talk about that. I got 2 sets of links. These are both from Trio, but they are different link sets, so I can mix and match lengths as I want. I did pick up a couple of options for shocks. I got the like telescoping ones. I really do not like these things or how they work, but we'll see. It's one option. It definitely gives me a lot more stroke on the shock, but I'm really not a fan of these. Another set of wheels I bought was a set of RC 4-wheel drive stamped wheels. But I bought these specifically because I wanted the hubs out of them. They have a bolt-on style hub in the center. And I bought those so I could steal them out for the wheel design that I actually plan to use. And that is a kind of a big wheel style, but not a big wheel. So I designed up this wheel. I've been cutting and test printing a number of options here. So the wheel itself has a standard wheel face on it. This will allow your regular 1.0 tire to go all the way down in there and sit within that area on a 1.0B. This was an early version that's not 100% like the final, but it'll give you an idea still. And then the back side of this one is currently open. There's another piece that goes on the back. But with this large barrel style, this will allow me to build a weight hanger that'll go and hang off of the knuckle, but sit super low inside of that wheel. It won't be mounted to the wheel at all, but it will give me a knuckle weight that's far below the center line of the axle to keep my center of gravity super far down. Also, these have a really shallow offset. So it takes these wide Super 8 axles and narrows them up to nearly the stock width of an SCX24. So when the wheel pivots on the axle, it's now pivoting much closer to that kingpin. So it doesn't throw you off as much when you're on side hill and trying to work the steering. It also doesn't throw the tire around a bunch, which can cause other issues. The amount of scrub radius you do or don't like can be personal preference, but this is something that on 1/10 scale crawlers works much better than having a super crazy scrub. For tires, I've picked up a bunch of options, and the one that I actually decided to go with is going to have a bit of a determination on the wheel that I actually designed, because the diameter of the wheel still needs room for some foam or inserts. And I've been 3D printing some TPU inserts in various densities to try and figure out which one I want and how soft I want them. Now, what isn't in this pile is a chassis. I'm gonna design my own chassis. I'm gonna shoot for around a wheelbase of about 160 millimeters total. This big pile over here, this is all hardware that I picked up from McMaster, just so that I have various hardware lengths of all the sizes that I need, just to make sure that I don't run into anything that causes me any grief. Oh, I also picked up a J Concepts Power Master 124 scale body as something. I picked up one of those. Everything else I've got multiples of. I picked up one body and it's only the Power Master. And just to make sure this is the most expensive SCX24, I've got a 10PX. With that brief explanation of what we're doing, let's dive into some building, and then hopefully I'm going to show you some comp footage. Diving right in, we had the little guy racing parts. These things were a lot of fun to put together. I got a bunch of option parts with them, as we discussed, and I kind of built up the axles with a baseline of what I guessed I may want, including the brass knuckles being installed. I used the aluminum steering mounts on the front. I didn't know that I needed any more additional weight. I did install their larger servo mount, and I believe this is for their tremor servo, even though I'm using the 99 micro from Reefs, still bolts right in. I had to get into design work pretty early, including the chassis that you see here. I started off by 3D printing the chassis just so that I could use it for mock-up in case I identified any areas that I needed some changes. I did put about 6 degrees of skid plate angle into the design, as the Hard Park RC transmission and the skid plate that it came with appeared to be made for that. The links, I'm using the 69 millimeter links front and rear. I believe these are deadbolt rears. Once I got everything pretty much where I thought it was good, I did cut the carbon fiber version. I made some floating electronics mounts. These attach to the back side of the servo, allow me to mount the ESC and the battery if I choose, but I did end up going a different route with the battery. For the wheels, these are a version of the design that I finally went with. It uses the 1.0 tire bead on the front, that's an actual bead lock, and on the back side you still use the 1.0 bead, but you glue it on the inside of the tire directly to that carbon fiber plate, and this allows that big weight hanger to hang on the inside of the wheel. I did a volumetric calculation on the amount of tungsten putty that I would need to use to give me the amount of weight that I thought I wanted in each front wheel. It allowed me to really get it in there, maximize the amount of space, keeping it low rather than using like the tungsten slugs, which don't as efficiently fit in the space that I was hoping that they would. I cut out the wheel parts on my Stepcraft D600 CNC router. Pretty efficient little machine. I used 1mm carbon for the wheel faces, and I did have to clean up the front face of that RC four-wheel drive hub so that it fit flush against that. This is an early version of the wheel. This isn't the final version like you saw the CAD of, but it kind of gives you an idea. The later version has a nice bead mount. Here you can see one of the early versions of the weight hangers hanging behind that wheel as well. I did test print some foams that you can see there, or some inserts as you would call them, but I ended up going with a cut down version of the stock foam around the outside instead, since the wheel itself gives a ton of that sidewall support. There's the 3D printed and carbon fiber weight hanger, ready to be filled with the tungsten putty, regular Pinewood Derby tungsten putty that I just filled in there. My calcs came out about correct, and I ended up just a little over the 20 grams that I was shooting for. So with the weight hanger teared out, and then the tungsten itself was the 20.6 grams. So you can see that there. And that fits nicely inside of that wheel, inside of the tire as well. You don't even see it. I made some sliders here. One side has a vertical plate that the receiver mounts to, and the other side's made for the battery to just sit right down in. Keeps everything nice and low. I do think that I could probably taper the sliders up just a hair more to tuck them inside the body. Not that I noticed it, but I think that it would look cleaner with the cliffhanger body that I actually ended up going with. I didn't end up using that J Concepts Power Master in the end. The design of this all just kind of worked out. It was something I spent a handful of days on, going back and forth while fabricating at the same time, but it's a fairly efficient design in the end, something I was able to combine some 3D printing and CNC and get everything to clear and work just how I wanted it. Got everything assembled late Friday night. It was about 3 a.m. before I was finished up. Got everything just kind of secured in place, and I probably drove this thing less than 24 inches by the time I actually went to bed. I also did end up changing to the Proline shocks. These are the short shocks, not the 50mm. So a few drops in oil in each of them just to keep them running smooth. They're so much smoother than the other options, and I really, really like the articulation. But with the amount of weight we've got way down low, this truck is super stable. The wheels also help keep the tire supported on the sidewall so it doesn't want to tip over. Even with the body, this thing's just super, super stable. The revision on the side, it was always just kind of what I called chassis when I was making them, just because I would save the file as, revision 3 or revision 4, and that's just what I've called many chassis throughout the years that I've made them. I also went and picked up a case from Harbor Freight with some pick and place foam, kind of laid it out so that I could carry the truck, my batteries, my radio, and I did later also add a spare parts case off to the one side. Makes it really easy to keep everything together at once. That way I don't have to go hunting for it the next time I plan to go out. Here you can see the spare parts case on the right side. I also carry this ISDT Q8 charger. I use a larger battery pack to plug into it, and then I plug my small 300 packs into to charge. So it works super easy. I just grabbed a squid to be able to charge everything from, just in case I need to do anything from my radio battery to my actual battery. The first comp was at A Main Hobbies. They have a little setup here. This is a pretty much all natural rock that they've brought in. This comp was done on a time basis, so I believe it was 15 gates. You had to make it through a gate. Hitting a gate was a 10-second penalty. Having to take a rollover was also a 10-second penalty. And the timeout, I believe, was 7 minutes. Now, I'm not used to doing where you're racing through to try and get the best time. I'm usually a little bit more to a points-based event. So that's something that I just didn't take advantage of and drive that way. But the truck drove on the ground on rocks for the very first time on this course. I didn't get any testing done ahead of time, and we just dove right into the run. This event used 3 classes, but pretty much everyone was in the class 3. So class 3 did allow rear steer, so I was able to utilize the rear steer that we built with the car, which really changed how this car felt to me. It made it so much fun, like a mini class 3 or a mini super. So I actually immediately enjoyed the performance. When installing the Super 8 axles, I did also install that underdrive in the rear, so it's got a noticeable amount of underdrive. Not sure if I want to keep that or not. I felt like I liked it throughout this course, but it's a lot, and I just don't know for sure if it's benefiting me in the way that I wanted to or not. This course, again, slow and technical. These are areas that I probably should have been trying to use a lot more speed and just carrying through, being careful not to hit gates, but not wasting any time. So I was driving just slow, technical, knew that I had a time limit, but wasn't going at the brisk pace that probably should have been. The rear steer even may have held me back with how much time it does take to center and recenter. I don't run it mixed with the front steering. I control it independently at all times. That's always the way that I've preferred rear steer. But right there, I kind of dallied around, and I didn't drive with any speed. I wasted more than 10 seconds here just driving slow and technical rather than just boogieing through. I could have hit the gate and been further down the course already and been much further time ahead rather than driving so slow. So the truck went where I pointed it, drove well, predictable, stuck to the rocks, side hills so well. This part here was actually super hard to see from where I was standing, so I was kind of guessing where that inside gate was, but still made it through just by kind of hugging the outside gate. Those blue cones down there are a bonus, but they definitely took more than 10 seconds to complete, so it was absolutely not worth attempting them. This here, the four-wheel steer, was probably one of the benefits. This is kind of a good little drop off, and a lot of people struggled to make this turn after this drop through here. But this car, I could just kind of use the four-wheel steer, just point me in the perfect spot, and I never even had to get into a spot that was slightly tricky. Again, the pace that I was driving at was just insufficient to be as competitive as the car is definitely capable of, but I just didn't take advantage of that. I drove in a more reserved way, which isn't necessarily the way that I always drive even, but in this case especially. I did go for the bonus here, which was a tricky little one on this kind of slick slab. Rear steer made pretty easy work of it, allowed me to get myself perfectly positioned for the gate following, as you can see there. I did end up running the RC four-wheel drive scramblers. Seemed to work really well. This was the one mistake I made on the course. I tapped that inside gate there. So that was my one penalty, although I did also pick up the bonus, so my time washed out. No advantage, no disadvantage to my overall finishing time on this. The steering angle of these Super 8s from Little Guy Racing Parts is absolutely enjoyed compared to running any of the stock SCX24s I've ran in the past. I definitely enjoyed that a lot more, and the four-wheel steer again just made it even more enjoyable. But that was the finish of the A-Main course. From there, we went over to R&H Hobbies. This one's in the Sacramento area. A-Main was in Chico, so a little bit of a drive for me. But this one here, right near where I'm from, so they have an all man-made course here, and they also added this new section, I guess, very recently. So none of the guys had really driven on this new little section here at the end. I believe someone had donated it. They set up a 10-gate course on this one. The
benefit to this comp, in my opinion, is that it is straight points based like I'm used to. So again, there is a time limit, but what you're going off of is penalty points. So lowest score wins. A gate is a 10-point penalty. A rollover is a 5-point penalty. Reverses are nothing. They do not count. Reverses are free, so you don't have to worry about that. The rest of the rules were very similar to the 1/10 scale comps that I'm pretty used to. So that was a big bonus to me, something I was much more comfortable with, and I like the technical driving that this style of course really helps to bring. But here was the next time that I drove the car. I didn't drive it any between that comp and this one. Charged the batteries up while I was at this event here and got on it. This was a steep climb. Of course, you can't see much from the front side here, but the back side of that was a super steep little vertical. The wheelbase on my truck turned out to be about 156 millimeters. Now also this comp did have class 3 rules, but everybody was running class 2. So for me to be able to compete here, I just did not use my rear steer, which would have been super helpful in this situation here, which is going to be the most frustrating portion to watch of this video, as this little section here just ate everybody up. Making this turn up to gate 2 was just painful. Almost everybody fought this thing or just couldn't make it. So backing up, I wedged this truck in. I'm unfamiliar with the strength of a lot of these parts, and running brushless in it, I had my concerns of things that would hold or not, but I just kept pushing it, and definitely I heard the motor chirp at me once or twice. I guess that's a stall or something along those lines, but we were going to keep pushing. You may notice the text on the back window, and that was a commentary from Nicole on the quality of my paint job and the color. So while I was cutting the stickers for the body, I just cut one of those and threw it on the back window. Now, one thing here, when they took rollovers, they didn't take a rollover all the way back to, just right in position or back to the previous gate or anything like that. They just kind of replaced it. The judge always did it. You didn't do it yourself. So it could be beneficial. Now, my biggest problem here is I knew I was eating up all of my time for the course. And if I'm only at gate 2, so getting stuck here and eating up the time was a problem. So when I kind of got upside down, I was just like, if I just say a rollover, I knew that he would place me in a way that was more beneficial, and I should have maybe taken advantage of that earlier because I kind of knew it would happen. But once I got up there, I had about half the time left for the entire course to do the rest. So I had just over 3 minutes left at this point. Super close to that little gate, sneaking around that edge with the tire hanging off, but stayed planted. So from here, I knew again, I had to go. I hit that gate there on the low side. This was the next gate that was super difficult. Doing the climb on that far edge was quite doable, but it was it was hampered by where that gate position was. You kind of needed to go right where that far side gate was. So we all just kind of tried pushing it. There was a couple people that were able to make it, and my little truck was sitting here, and I just kind of had to keep working at it. But time was my biggest concern. I am running a 3S on that Micro Komodo. So the wheel speed is nice to have, but at this point, again, time was my big concern, so I decided to take an alternate route just to try and make this happen. So I was going to kind of sneak around to the side, take the far side or the near side gate, get my progress through it, and then get going. I believe that I only had less than 2 minutes or a little over a minute left at this point. So, and I had 6 gates left. That was gate 4, went through gate 5. This is gate 6. Tight turn to make it underneath through the little airsoft ball mud pit thing. Through the tight little squeeze of the tunnel that he's got there. Then we had the super steep. I think they said this is 60 something degrees, but the truck did it well. But you also had to do it and make the turn. So that was the hard part. And I got up there, then I had to continue to reposition myself to try and finish this little turn, which was not easy. As you can see there, I actually didn't make it straight through. This was the last gate, gate 10, made it through, but there was a bonus that could try and attempt with the time that I had less, but I had like less than 5 seconds left, so it just wasn't going to happen. So I'm good and hooked. I really enjoyed competing with the SCX24s. Like I said, they weren't my jam, just on their own. But you put me in a competition setting with them, a bunch of guys having fun with these. I really, really enjoyed it. Something I'm definitely going to do more of. Who knows if I need more cars or not? I probably do. Why not? But I'm absolutely had a great time at both events this weekend. So going to try and make more of both style. Both are worth practicing, and I have to take back half the bad things I ever said about 124 scales, and I'm sure you're going to see more on them here soon. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed some comp footage, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell to see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Once again, thanks for watching the 24 content, and we'll see you on the next one.